Welcome to the world of science fiction stories, and don't forget to share and subscribe the channel. In the endless expanse beyond Cayley's V, the Earth Arkship Aurora hovered like a pale shard of ice against the obsidian void. Sean Hayworth pressed his gloved hand against the transparent plating of the docking bay, feeling the faint tremor of the V Heron flagship, X-Horan's Grace, as it received the ancient human envoy. Each breath he drew crackled softly in his helmet's calm chamber, mingling with the low hum of alien gravitic resonators. Around him, crewmates adjusted ceremonial garb woven with Earth's bioluminescent fungi, a gesture of peace. He drew a steadying breath, aware that across the chamber stood the most powerful ruler in the outer spiral, waiting for a human to bridge two worlds. The V Heron flagship's interior was an intricate labyrinth of opalescent corridors, each wall alive with veins of shifting color that traced the neural pathways of an ancient sentient ship. The lights pulsed in silent rhythms, echoing the heartbeat of a civilization that had mastered starlight itself. Sean's boots clicked softly across a floor of iridescent tiles, his senses alight with unfamiliar scents of metallic ozone and fragrant alien blooms. He wondered if the V Herons perceived time as fluid as light, rather than a linear measure. Behind him, a small cadre of human diplomats, including Admiral Marisol Kine and Dr. Oren Lore, moved with an uneasy reverence, wary of disrupting the ship's living architecture. Around the next curve of the corridor, Sean spotted her, Queen Shylatter. She stood upon a dais of crystalline spires, her skin the soft hue of nebula mist, her eyes like liquid starlight reflecting a galaxy's worth of sagas. She wore a gown woven from strands of captured photon energy, the garment shimmering like dawn on distant suns. At her side, General Lio Ven, a towering figure in woven titanium armor, bowed deeply. The hush that settled over the chamber was absolute, as if the ship itself held its breath. Sean felt a tremor of awe and trepidation collide in his chest. This was the moment he had spent a lifetime preparing for. "Welcome, Envoy of Earth," Queen Shylatter intoned, her voice a chorus of mirrored tones that resonated through the stone fiber walls. Sean lowered his visor, revealing eyes bright with determination. "Queen Shylatter, it is an honor to stand before you," he replied, his voice steady despite the tremor of wonder beneath. Translation algorithms hummed, rendering each word in V Heron tonal glyphs that danced along the air. For a heartbeat, they measured each other across an expanse of centuries and light years. Then General Lio Ven stepped forward, formal and unyielding, to remind them of the fragile treaty that bound their peoples. In that standoff of protocol, Sean sensed the first spark of something deeper. As they moved to the legislature halls for formal talks, Sean's mind drifted to the vulnerable moment when he'd first glimpsed the moonlit plains of V Heron homeworld through telescope arrays. He recalled the iridescent seas and crystal forests, and how they had beckoned him with promises of discovery. Queen Shylatter watched him with a curious tilt of her head, as though she sensed his memory in the ebb and flow of his aura. Between discussions of resource exchange and stardust harvesting rights, Sean shared a fragment of his own past. Nights spent decoding ancient radio pulses, dreams of a future where two species might walk under the same sky. But beneath the veneer of diplomacy, tensions simmered. Counselor Nari Sorn, a V Heron traditionalist, whispered of human unpredictability and the threat to V Heron purity. On Earthside, Senator Ruth Beckett questioned the Queen's motives and warned of alien intrigue. Sean found himself bridging not only worlds but growing distrust. In a quiet moment, Shylatter led him through a hidden passage to the ship's memory vault, its walls inscribed with petal-thin glyphs of her ancestors. There, she confessed a fear that her people's legacy might vanish in assimilation, even as her heart yearned for unity. The truth in her voice resonated deeper than any treaty clause. No sooner had they emerged than an alarm blared, a mortice of crimson light flooding the brocade corridors. Saboteurs had breached the outer hull, their plasma charges set to fracture the docking seals. Human and V Heron sentries converged, weapons drawn. Sean clutched the Queen's hand, his pulse racing. General Lio Ven barked orders, but Shylatter's calm voice cut through the chaos. "Protect our future." Seizing a quantum blade from a side panel, she moved with lethal grace beside him. Together, they cut down fleeing insurgents and raced toward the central nexus to override the destructive codes. Once the alarms subsided and the saboteurs were restrained, Shylatter guided Sean to the observation deck, a vast dome overlooking the velvet expanse of interstellar space. Stars bloomed like distant lanterns, and ribbons of cosmic winds traced unseen currents. Here, away from politics and fear, their shared vulnerability shone through. I have never known terror so close to my throne, she murmured, voice heavy with honesty. Sean gently brushed a stray filament of photon lace from her cheek. I have studied your people from afar, he whispered, but only now do I understand the weight you carry. Under the silent court of stars, they stood united in a fragile peace. As minutes stretched into an intimate hush, Shylatter turned to face him fully, her eyes reflecting not duty but curiosity. She asked about his homeworld, the shifting blues and greens of Earth that he had left behind. Sean painted images of ocean tides and forest canopies, of golden deserts and moonlit rivers, weaving memories with fervent warmth. She listened, each phrase coloring her thoughts with longing. Then Shylatter spoke of Viharan rites, of ceremonial dances under triple suns, of vows exchanged in echoes of bioluminescent groves. The gulf between them felt both infinite and surmountable, bridged by the stories they shared under starlight. In a heartbeat heavy with promise, their hands found each other's, fingers curling in mutual recognition of a rare connection. Sean felt the cool silk of photon lace beneath his touch, while her aura shimmered with cautious hope. Their breaths intertwined, and for an instant they allowed themselves to imagine a future beyond treaties, a lineage where human heartbeats and Viharan starlight fused in new life. Fleeting as a comet's tail, the moment dissolved when distant alarms sounded again, reminding them that their personal dawn could not eclipse the galaxy's shadows. Yet that spark would not fade. In the council chamber's aftermath, Shylatter moved to secure safe passages for human delegates, citing the trust she placed in Sean and his people. He countered with proposals for cultural exchanges, promising to share Earth's knowledge in return for Viharan starlight engineering. Together, they drafted the framework for an unprecedented project, the Genesis Chamber, where human and Viharan DNA would be woven under controlled harmony. Chamber's success hinged on more than science. It demanded surrendering old fears and forging a bond of mutual sacrifice. As the first session drew to a close, Queen Shylatter summoned Sean back to the observation dome. The stars beyond blinked like distant witnesses. She placed a slender ring of woven light upon his finger, a symbol of commitment in Viharan tradition. He accepted it, his chest warm with resolve. Our peoples will judge us, she whispered, but our legacy will transcend their fear. Sean nodded, his own pulse echoing her vow. Below them, the living corridors of Exhoran's grace pulsed softly, as if the ship itself celebrated their unity. Together, they gazed at the cosmic tapestry, ready to defy gravity and kindle a new dawn across the galaxy. They descended the luminescent stairway, hand in hand, aware that each step carried the weight of destiny. Dawn would break differently across both worlds now. In his heart, Sean harbored a question he dared not yet speak. Could love alone conquer the distance between stars? The question would find its answer in the coming trials, when two hearts and two species learned to beat as one. In the heart of Exhoran's grace, the Imperial Council chamber pulsed with opalescent light, each panel in the vaulted ceiling shifting in complex ripples of color. Admiral Marisol Kynes stood at the human delegation's dais, adjusting the biolink transmitter on her wrist. Beside her, Dr. Oren Lore's pale eyes scanned the assembled Viharan counselors, stern faces etched in iridescent flesh, their expressions a ballet of unreadable nuance. The human flag hung beside the Viharan crest, threads of photon energy woven through both. Tensions crackled in the silence, and Kynes' grip tightened on her notes. This moment would define the future of two species. General Lyoven rose from his polished podium, his titanium-etched armor gleaming beneath the council's living lights. His voice, a deep resonance of authority, echoed through the chamber. We convene to deliberate on the Human-Viharan Alliance Treaty. Let it be known that we welcome our Earth visitors. A polite gesture, but in his stone-cold tone lay the weight of centuries of Viharan isolationism. Marisol shared a brief glance with Sean Hayworth, the envoy whose reputation for empathy had preceded him. Both knew that the Alliance's approval would require more than courteous words. It would demand sacrifice and courage. Councillor Nari Sorn, a traditionalist with veins of amber running like fault lines across her skin, leaned forward. Her slender fingers tapped an ornate desk carved from crystallized nebula gas. Our people have thrived for millennia without human interference, she intoned, each word measured. We do not forget the bloodshed on Trion's rise, nor the conflicts that almost destroyed our world. Murmurs rippled through the chamber as she recalled historic wars. Lyoven nodded in solemn agreement, a silent pact between them. The Alliance's proponents bristled, Marisol's jaw set as she prepared her counterargument. When Senator Ruth Beckett of Earth's Interstellar Committee rose, Her human frame felt awkward amid the V-Heron grandeur. Her voice carried firm resolve. Earth acknowledges past mistakes, but our species has evolved. We bring advances in terraforming medicine, sustainable energy, and shared culture. She extended a hollow projector displaying images of verdant domes on Mars and coral reefs revived in Pacific atolls. We offer knowledge, friendship, and a chance to enrich both our civilizations. Her speech drew polite applause from some counselors, but the skeptical glimmer in Nari Sorn's eyes remained undimmed. Sean Hayworth stepped forward with quiet confidence. His tone was warm, almost conversational. I have walked beneath your crystal forests and watched the tide of starlight. I have forged bonds with your scholars and felt the pulse of your ship's living heart. He paused, allowing the council to sense his sincerity. I ask not for blind trust, but for partnership built on respect. Together we can weave a future where human curiosity and V-Heron wisdom coalesce. A ripple of interest passed through a few younger counselors, drawn to his earnest gaze and earnest words. Behind the gilded doors of the chamber, a shadowy faction known as the Nightshade Cabal gathered in secret. Minister Halakador, cloaked in a robe of shifting violet hues, addressed her co-conspirators. The queen grows soft, trusting these humans, she hissed. If we allow this treaty, our heritage will be diluted. We strike tonight before the final vote. She revealed a set of gravitic mines hidden within diplomatic cargo. Once the council seals the treaty, we will fracture the docking locks. Blame the humans and we restore V-Heron purity. Nods circled the hidden circle. The Cabal's resolve was unbreakable. Meanwhile, the human delegation's communications officer, Lena Rose, intercepted anomalous transmissions. The patterns were too precise to be ordinary cargo signals, encrypted codes in V-Heron tonal glyphs. Rose's rapid fingers danced across her console. Admiral, I'm picking up unauthorized gravitic signatures embedded in our manifests, she reported. Kyne's eyes narrowed. Patch me into the council network, she ordered. Within seconds, she uncovered the Nightshade Cabal's subterfuge, a plan to sabotage the treaty vote. The human team exchanged urgent whispers. Time was slipping away. Sean and Marisol convened with Dr. Oren Lore and Lena Rose in a dim corridor beyond the chamber. The walls here throbbed with the ship's memory streams, offering privacy. We need proof for the Queen, Sean insisted. She must know her own counselors intend betrayal. Marisol nodded, already tapping into her diplomatic datapad. Lore cross-referenced the gravitic mine blueprints with V-Heron engineering archives. These designs are centuries old, he concluded. Only the ancestral code keepers could authorize them. The revelation deepened the conspiracy. They were not merely rebels, but had roots in the highest echelons. Crossing back into the council chamber, Shyletter descended from her dais onto the glass floor, her figure radiating calm authority. Counselors bowed, but their expressions were taut. The human envoy approached her with caution. Without raising her voice above the chamber's hush, Shyletter inquired, "Have you found clarity, envoy?" Sean stepped forward and projected the intercepted transmissions around the dome. Tonal glyphs spiraled in luminous script. A gasp rippled through the audience. Senator Beckett arched an eyebrow, impressed by the evidence. Nari Sorn's face paled to nebula gray. General Lyoven's voice cracked the silence. "This is treason against the crown," he thundered, rising to his full height. He pressed a command on his gauntlet, sealing the chamber's doors. Counselors rebelled, rising from their seats. Marisol kicked off the dais, lifting a small energy shield to protect the human group. Senator Beckett unclipped a personal, phased baton, ready to defend. The Queen's eyes flashed like cosmic storms. "The traitors will face justice," she declared, her voice rippling through the tessellated corridors beyond. In the ensuing chaos, emissaries of the Nightshade Cabal lunged from shadowed alcoves, seeking to ignite the gravitic mines concealed in the docking modules. Lena Rose's alarm blared as the medium-frequency hum of activated charges thrummed beneath the council floor. Lamps flickered, and the chamber began to warp as if warning of an impending breach. Guests ducked under tables, and crystal shards rattled. Sean grabbed Shyletter's hand, and together they sprinted toward the central console that could disable the mines. The council turned into a battlefield of light and sound. Marisol and Lyoven fought back-to-back, fending off Cabal fighters with precise volleys of plasma fire. Marisol's shield flared as she deflected a bolt aimed at Sean. Lyoven's blade slashed through a metal gauntlet before the saboteur could trigger a secondary device. In a blur of motion, Senator Beckett and Dr. Lore tackled a weapons crate, preventing it from detonating near the Queen's dais. The ground trembled as the charges pulsed, ready to sever the treaty hull from the dock. Time had become a weapon. Reaching the console, Sean and Shylander synchronized their tokens, her royal cipher and his envoy keycard, into the interface. The holographic panel blossomed into a starfield, each dot representing a charge. With a shared breath, they enacted the emergency override sequence. A crystalline chime rang through the chamber as the mines deactivated, their gravitic signatures dissolving into the ship's core. The hull shuddered in relief. The Cabal's fighters froze, their plan unraveling beneath the joint will of two united souls. Counselor Nari Sorn, her robes smeared with ash and regret, knelt before Shylander. Her voice trembled. "My loyalty to your people blinded me," she confessed. "I feared extinction, but you have shown that evolution can be our strength." The queen extended a slender hand to help her rise. Lio then sheathed his blade and bowed to Marisol, a silent apology. Senate Beckett offered Sean a respectful nod. The chamber, once a stage of discord, now held a fragile hope forged in crisis. In the aftermath, Shylander addressed the humbled council. "Today we stood on the brink of division, and yet side by side we preserved our future." Her words resonated like a vow. Marisol stepped forward, representing Earth's delegation. "We share this victory, Your Majesty, in partnership." The councilors murmured agreement, their gazes lingering on the human envoy whose sincerity had saved them. The treaty, once teetering on the edge of destruction, now seemed destined for passage. As the chamber reopened to the public concourse, Sean found a quiet alcove overlooking the docking bay. The Aurora rested against the V-Heron hull, its white surface glowing softly. Shylander joined him, her gown reflecting star-splintered hues. "Our peoples have witnessed our unity," she said, voice gentle. "The council's heart has changed tonight." Sean offered a small smile. "And yet there will be challenges ahead," he replied. "But tonight we proved that trust can defy the darkest designs." They lingered in silence, gazing at their two ships poised like twin embryos ready for birth. Below them, crews worked to repair the damage wrought by the Cabal, forging side-by-side bonds in their shared purpose. In the distance, the first glimmers of V-Heron dawn filtered through the observation windows, and the Aurora's own lights adjusted to the new cycle. In that melding of cosmic and artificial light, Sean felt the tide of history shift irrevocably. As they departed the alcove, hand in hand, the council chamber behind them hummed with renewed purpose. Delegates hurried to finalize treaty clauses, eager to seal the alliance that had weathered its first true test. Whispers of a hybrid Genesis chamber spread through the corridors, igniting wonder and cautious excitement. For the first time, two worlds seemed not bound by fear but drawn together by the promise of shared life. The Nightshade Cabal had been thwarted, yet their embers remained buried in silent corridors. Shylander's gaze met Sean as they stepped into the council atrium, each aware that vigilance would define their alliance. Beneath the vaulted ceiling's living mosaic, they advanced side by side, Queen and Envoy, V-Heron and Human, ready to guide their peoples through the tides of shifting allegiances toward a dawn unwritten in the orbit of V-Heron Prime. Arlek's station hung like a jeweled sentinel above the planet's crystalline seas. Its outer hull gleamed with interlaced human steel and V-Heron biometal, a testament to the Alliance's collaborative engineering. Within its core lay the Genesis Laboratory, a circular chamber lined with living walls of bioluminescent algae and reinforced human-grade alloy. At the center stood the Genesis vessel, a transparent biocapsule suspended in zero-G, its surface rippling with encoded starlight patterns. Inside, the first hopes of a new race grew. Dr. Lunsaw moved through the chamber in measured grace, her pale violet skin reflecting the vessel's soft glow. A V-Heron geneticist renowned for her pioneering work in photon-mediated cloning, she had been chosen by Queen Shylander to oversee the hybrid project. Beside her hovered Dr. Aria Desai, Earth's top xenogeneticist, whose steady fingers adjusted nutrient infusions through nanotubes in the capsule's rim. Their quiet collaboration held the weight of two civilizations. "Infusion at 30%, Aria reported, her voice calm yet taut with anticipation. She monitored a holographic display of embryonic growth metrics, heart tube formation, chromosomal synchrony, telomere stability. Each line of data represented countless debates on ethics, on cultural preservation, on the risks of blending DNA from species separated by light years and eons of evolution. Lunsaw placed a slender fingertip on the glass, where the embryo stirred. "Sierra Nova," she whispered, the name chosen to honor both the V-Heron word for star cradle and the human concept of a new creation. The tiny form, no larger than a human fingertip, pulsed with faint bioluminescence as its cells divided in harmony. Above the embryo, a halo of microscopic V-Heron photonic scaffolds wove around human genetic strands, creating proteins neither species could form alone. Outside the chamber, visitors gathered behind transparent shields. Sean Hayworth and Queen Shylatter stood hand in hand with Admiral Marisol Kine and Senator Ruth Beckett. General Lyo, Ven and Counselor Nari Sorn watched beside Captain Reuven, Arlex Station's human V. Heron commander. All bore masks that filtered airborne particulates, strict protocol for containment of any unforeseen anomalies. The room's living walls pulsed in gentle waves, as if sensing the tension and hope within. "This is the culmination of our treaty," Shylatter began, voice soft but unwavering. "We witnessed tonight the birth of a bridge between our peoples." Her gaze met Sean's, their shared history of peril and triumph reflected in each other's eyes. The audience murmured, some faces glowed with wonder, others with fear. For many V. Herons, the mere sight of human V. Heron fusion felt like sacrilege. Senator Beckett stepped forward, projecting a calming presence. "Sierra Nova represents a promise. That unity need not erase identity, but can enrich it." She gestured to Arya and Lun Sa. "Our scientists stand ready to guide this being into a future of choice and freedom." Counselor Sierra Mean, the station's lead ethicist, raised a slender hand. Her skin shimmered with soft gold flecks. "We must consider autonomy," she cautioned. "This embryo will carry both our legacies. We must ensure that Sierra Nova's rights eclipse any notion of property or experiment." Her words gleaned respectful nods from human delegates and thoughtful bows from V. Heron nobles. But not all were convinced. Minister Halika Dor, hidden among the observing counselors, scowled behind her veil. She had rallied the Nightshade Cabal after their failed attempt at assassination, retreating into dark webs of dissent. Now, with the hybrid embryo at the heart of Arlex Station, her resolve hardened to prevent its fruition. As the ceremony concluded, Arya and Lun Sa guided guests out through winding corridors of living glass. Arya noted Shylatter's strained expression. "Your Majesty, are you well?" she asked quietly. Shylatter managed a small smile. "I carried the weight of both worlds tonight," she confessed. "Sierra Nova's life is entwined with my own." That night, beneath the station's domed arboretum of floating crystal gardens, Sean and Marisol conferred in hushed tones. "We're at a crossroads," Sean said, tracing constellations on a hollow map of the outer spiral. "If Sierra Nova thrives, our alliance will strengthen beyond politics, but if she falters," his voice trailed off. Marisol placed a steady hand on his shoulder. "Dr. Lun Sa has contingency protocols. We've tested thousands of V. Heron human chimeric cells in silico, but until we see the first heartbeat, uncertainty remains." Her eyes reflected the glittering biolights above them. Meanwhile, in a hidden cargo hold, Halika Dor convened her inner circle. Gravitic mines lay dormant beneath crates marked as research supplies. At her side, saboteur Captain Zel Karn, once a trusted security officer, now led clandestine teams. "We strike at midnight," Halika commanded. "We cannot allow Sierra Nova to be born. For the sake of V. Heron purity, we must end this abomination before it takes form." Back in the Genesis lab, Arya Desai hovered over the vessel's control panel. Data streamed in from cellular sensors and photonic scaffolds. Suddenly, an alarm chimed, an irregular spike in embryonic bioluminescence. The vessel's built-in safety protocols triggered a containment field. Arya frowned. "Lun Sa, I'm seeing an unexpected surge in photon-driven morphogenesis. It's beyond our model." Lun Sa materialized at Arya's side, her own analysis etched in fractal glyphs across her wrist holocom. "The embryo's V. Heron sequences are expressing adaptive traits," she murmured. "Sierra Nova is shaping proteins we did not program." Arya's brow furrowed. "Could it be sentience already forming?" she whispered. Lun Sa's violet eyes widened. "We must proceed with extreme caution. Notify the council." Down the corridor, Lena Rose intercepted the alert on her communications pad. She transmitted a secure message to Sean and Shylatter. The Queen's voice crackled through the lab speakers. "Hold all non-essential protocols. Seal the lab until we understand the anomaly." Lights dimmed around the chamber, isolating the vessel in cool blue light moments later. A squad of station security glided in, human and V. Heron officers led by Captain Reuven. Behind him, Counselor Sierra Mean offered a measured nod. "We will observe from here," she said softly, indicating a private viewing pod. Arya halted her adjustments. "The embryo's energy signature suggests rapid evolution," she explained, voice calm but urgent. "We may be witnessing the birth of a truly new life form." The Queen entered, her presence commanding the vessel's glow to brighten in response. She placed her hand on the capsule's surface, aligning her royal cipher with its encryption panel. Sierra Nova's safety is our highest priority, Shylatter declared. We must guide her birth with compassion and respect. Her gaze lingered on the embryo's flickering form as if recognizing a distant kin. As the team prepared to resume controlled infusions, an explosion rocked the station. Alarms wailed and the living walls flickered erratically. Security officers shouted orders. Arya grabbed a tether line to steady herself. "That came from the cargo hold," Reuven shouted. "Saboteurs." Halakador's voice boomed over the emergency comm. "Sovereigns of Viharan and Earth, you have deceived us. If Sierra Nova is born, our heritage falls. Surrender the vessel or face obliteration." Gravitic mines detonated in sequence, sending shockwaves through Arlex Station's framework. Corridors buckled, and the Genesis lab's magnetic field glitched. Against the chaos, Dr. Lunsah initiated the emergency stasis protocol. Nutrient flows paused, and the vessel's internal temperature stabilized automatically. Sierra Nova's form glowed steadily in suspended animation, but the station's structural integrity waned with each tremor. In the council atrium, Sean and Shylatter rallied the surviving counselors and crew. "This station is our child's cradle," Sean shouted over the din. "We cannot let it fall." Shylatter raised her arm, photon threads weaving through the air as she channeled a resonant pulse into the station's living systems. Vines of bioluminescent algae strengthened, sealing ruptured conduits and supporting the hull. In the Genesis lab, Arya and Lunsah moved to transport the vessel to the station's central core, a secure vault designed for high-value genetic materials. Captain Reuven formed a protective escort, leading the way through cracking tunnels and flickering lights. General Lyo then appeared, his blade radiating plasma energy to clear debris. "Your Majesty," he greeted Shylatter with a bow. "We will see this child born." Mid falling dust and electrical sparks, the group reached the core's entrance. Halakador's forces advanced behind them, plasma rifles raised. Shylatter stood before the reinforced doors, her aura flaring with royal defiance. "Sierra Nova is the future," she proclaimed. "Her life transcends your fear." Counselor Sierra Mean stepped beside her, echoing the Queen's sentiment. "We guard her rights even against our own." As hands worked to open the vault, Sean knelt before the sealed Genesis vessel. Through its transparent shell, he saw a faint pulse, the first heartbeat. Tears welled in his eyes. "Welcome, Sierra Nova," he whispered. "We will protect you." The doors slid open. Inside, a cradle of living metal awaited. Arya keyed the override codes. Containment fields shimmered. Together, they lifted the vessel onto a hover platform bound for the station's core. Halakador's saboteurs lunged, but General Lyo, Ven, and Captain Reuven formed a protective ring. Plasma volleys cut through the darkness, driving the insurgents back. As the hover platform glided into the vault, the core locked behind them. Emergency lights shifted to hopeful green. The Genesis vessel settled in its cradle, stabilized by both human and Viharan tech. From the control station's viewports, the team watched Sierra Nova's cells resume their gentle glow, unfazed by the chaos around. In the hush that followed, Lunsah exhaled with relief. Arya placed a hand on her shoulder. "We've secured her," she said softly. The Queen's voice came over the comm. "This child will be raised with the wisdom of both worlds. Let no force undo what we have wrought." Sean and Shylatter exchanged a glance heavy with promise and peril. Outside the vault, the station's alarms subsided. In the arboretum above, bioluminescent petals drifted in zero-G like silent witnesses. Through cracked windows, the violet dawn of Viharan Prime began to rise. In that light, the Alliance's fragile hope shone anew, a promise that out of conflict and fear, the hybrid Genesis had taken root. Next, the final trial, where Sierra Nova's birth will ignite a legacy of starlight and defiance across the galaxy. In the silent expanse above Viharan Prime, Arlex Station's outer hull radiated with the soft glow of 1,000 distant stars. Inside the Genesis vault, the transparent biocapsule cradling Sierra Nova pulsed gently, its surface iridescent with the infant's first heartbeat. Dr. Lunsah monitored the biocapsule's sensors, her violet eyes reflecting each rhythmic pulse. Beside her, Dr. Arya Desai adjusted the photonic infusion, ensuring the hybrid embryo's transition from stasis to active gestation proceeded without falter. The room hummed with cautious anticipation. Sierra Nova's birth would mark a turning point for two civilizations. Outside the vault, Queen Shylatter stood beneath a cascading waterfall of starlight refracted through the station's observation dome. She wore a simple robe of woven photon filaments, its threads shimmering like nebula clouds. At her side, Sean Hayworth felt the weight of destiny settle in his chest. Marisol Kine, General Lio Ven, and Senator Ruth Beckett formed a silent guard, their gazes fixed on the Genesis Lab's sealed doors. Prince Orion, heir to the neighboring celestial kingdom of Galerion, had arrived at Dawn's first cycle, pledging his fleet's support for the fledgling alliance. Today, Shylatter began, voice resonant but soft, we witnessed the birth of our shared legacy. She extended her hand toward the vault's controls. Orion's fleet hovered in silent formation beyond the station's shields, their crystalline hulls glinting like scattered diamonds. Let the starlight bear witness. With a gentle chime, the vault's doors slid open. Inside, the biocapsule released a cloud of rose-tinted nanoflora, bathing the chamber in warm light. Sierra Nova's form lay curled in a cradle of living photonic fibers, her skin a mosaic of soft human hue streaked with swirls of V-Heron luminescence. A single eyelid fluttered, revealing a glittering iris that shifted from sapphire to silver. The assembled dignitaries gasped in unison. Dr. Aria Desai approached the capsule, her gloved hands steady as she tapped bio-readings into her console. Heart rate stable, she announced. Respiration within expected parameters, neural synapses forming at accelerated rate. Cheers rippled through the observers. Marisol's stern features softened as she allowed herself a rare smile. Lio Ven bowed his head in solemn respect. Prince Orion knelt at the edge of the vault, touching a finger to the glass as though blessing the newborn. Sean pressed his palm to the vessel's surface, feeling a gentle warmth radiate through the barrier. Tears pricked at his eyes. Welcome, Sierra Nova, he whispered. May your life be the dawn of unity. Shylatter stood beside him, her hand resting on his shoulder. In that moment, politics and peril faded. They were simply two parents, awed by the fragile promise of a new life. But tragedy shadowed their triumph. Beyond the station's defense grid, extremist warships loyal to the Nightshade Cabal surged forward. Minister Halika Dor, her resolve hardened by defeat, had secured allies among fringe factions. Her flagship, the Shadow's Wrath, emerged from a nearby nebula, unleashing a volley of plasma torpedoes. Shattering alarms blared through Arlex Station as the first impact rocked the domed arboretum above. General Lio Ven barked orders. Battle stations, protect the Genesis core at all costs. Below, security teams scrambled hydraulic shutters around the core's outer ring. Prince Orion's fleet responded in kind. Galerian cruisers deployed energy barriers, deflecting shards of plasma into the void. Sean and Shylatter exchanged a tense glance. Their child's safety and the fragile hope she embodied hung in the balance. In the Genesis vault, Dr. Lunsa initiated the emergency containment protocol. The biocapsule sealed in secondary titanium mesh, its own gravimetric fields intensifying to shield Sierra Nova. Aria rerouted station power to sustain life support. We've got 90 seconds before structural breach, she called, voice taut. The vault's living walls glowed fiercely, bioluminescent algae-weaving reinforcement across fractures in the composite alloy. Outside, Marisol Kine and Captain Reuven led a counterstrike team through the station's corridors. Their path wound past shattered observation windows where streaks of red and violet light flickered across debris-littered floors. Each corridor hummed with the sound of reinforcements, V-Heron shock troopers and human marines moving in lockstep. Senator Beckett provided tactical coordination via comlinks, her voice steady amidst the chaos. In the command atrium, Prince Orion confronted the Shadow's Wrath's captain, a fanatic named Nox Umbra. The two warlords faced each other across a holotter display of the station's status. Your fight is against fear, Orion intoned, but Sierra Nova is the embodiment of hope. Lay down your arms. Umbra's eyes burned with fanatical conviction. Hope is weakness, he spat. We will obliterate this union. He activated a remote override, diverting additional torpedoes toward the Genesis sector. The station shuddered violently. Lights dimmed and spines of cable detached from overhead rails. Beneath the Genesis lab, structural supports groaned. Sean sprinted through maintenance hatches, galvanizing repair teams to shore up the vault's pilings. Shylatter followed, her photon threads flaring as she channeled energy to stabilize localized gravity fields. Hold fast, she urged, voice echoing through the tunnel. At the Nexus door, Lio Ven and Marisol arrived just as the corridor ignited in a plasma flare. They formed a shield wall, absorbing the blast's tremor. Vienna team, breach ahead, Marisol barked. Heavy bolters thundered, carving a path. Behind them, senators and engineers carried cryogenic gel packs and reinforcement modules. Every second counted. In the vault's control room, Aria Desai's console flickered with damage indicators. She triggered the station's core reactor to dump reserve power into the life support grid. "Reducing non-essential systems," she announced, fingers dancing over commands. Lun Sa monitored Sierra Nova's vital signs. "Heartbeat strong," she reported. "Cognitive accelerators engaged. The embryo is adapting to stress." Suddenly, the vault's outer bulkhead buckled. Jagged metal twisted inward. Debris threatened to puncture the biocapsule. Sean appeared in the breach, wielding a borrowed particle cutter. Sparks flew as he severed a fractured support beam. With a heave, he realigned the bulkhead. Photon vines woven by Shyletter filled the gaps, sealing the breach with living lattice. The chamber stilled. Outside, the Shadow's wrath loomed in the station's forward dock. Prince Orion boarded a Galerian interceptor, vowing to confront the extremist flagship directly. Shyletter placed a firm hand on his arm. "Be swift," she whispered. "I will guard our child." Orion kissed her forehead and vanished into a light tunnel as the interceptor launched. The battle above continued. Galerian and Viharan cruisers engaged the extremist fleet in a ballet of energy beams and gravitic mines. Senator Beckett's strategic guidance turned the tide. She coordinated a pincer maneuver that cut off the enemy's reinforcements. General Lyo then led a boarding party onto the Shadow's wrath, seeking to end the threat at its source. In the vault's hush, Arya and Lun Sa released a collective breath as sensors cleared. "Structural integrity 60%, Arya said, relief softening her tone. "Life support stable. Sierra Nova's bioluminescence is brighter." Lun Sa placed a hand over her heart. "She thrives even as the galaxy rages." The biocapsule's glow pulsed in harmony with their hope. A triumph cry echoed through the comm link. "Boarding party secured," Marisol announced. Orion's voice joined hers. "Shadow's wrath disabled, extremist command neutralized." The station's alarms fell silent. Jubilant cheers rose from every deck. Queen Shyletter stepped before the vault's viewing window, her silhouette framed by starlight. She turned to Sean, tears glistening. "We have won this day." The vault doors opened once more. Sierra Nova lay swathed in soft light, her tiny fingers flexing with new awareness. As the observers approached the inner sanctum, Dr. Arya Desai carefully transferred the biocapsule to a mobile cradle for transport. "The next phase begins at Nuari Habitats," she explained. "There she will learn and grow under combined guardianship." Prince Orion entered, his Galerian livery dusted with stardust. He knelt beside Shyletter and Sean. "You have given life to hope itself," he said, voice rich with emotion. "Galerian stands with you." Together, they lifted the cradle, leading the procession through cheering crowds of Viharan, human, and Galerian crews. Banners of interwoven photon threads and earthen silks fluttered in the station's artificial breeze. In the grand concourse, Queen Shyletter addressed the multitude. "Today we celebrate more than survival," she proclaimed. "We honor the birth of Sierra Nova, our hybrid child. Her life binds us beyond treaties or portents. She is our legacy of starlight." As her words echoed under the living dome, light refracted across thousands of hopeful faces. Sean stepped forward, holding Shylatter's hand. "In her first breath we witnessed unity," he said. "In her heartbeat we found purpose." Senator Beckett and General Lyo then stood behind them, nodding in solemn agreement. Prince Orion raised a crystal chalice of nebula wine. "To Sierra Nova," he toasted. "May her brilliance outshine our darkest fears." The crowds cheered, glasses raised. Dr. Lun Sa and Dr. Arya Desai joined the line, proud smiles on their faces. As the celebration roared, Shyletter leaned into Sean. "Our galaxy will remember this day," she murmured. "Not for war, but for love's triumph." He kissed her gently. "And for the child who showed us a new way." Above them, beyond the observation dome, the stars shimmered as if in applause. Arlex Station's living hull pulsed with renewed life. The hybrid Genesis had endured its final trial. In Sierra Nova's first moments, two peoples discovered that hope, like starlight, can traverse any darkness. And so, across the galaxy, the legend of the human and alien queen who built a new race would shine for generations to come.